Awesome. Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's session, Visual Storytelling with Midjourney. My name is Daniel Nzuato, and I'm grateful to welcome you to today's session. If this is your first time attending one of our workshops, let me provide some context on Startout. Startout accelerates the growth of the LGBTQ plus community to drive our economic empowerment, building a world where every LGBTQ plus entrepreneur has equal access to lead, succeed, and shape the workforce of the future. I'm excited to introduce our host for today, Karan Singh. The floor is yours, Karan.
Thank you. Good morning, guys, and thank you for joining me early. I'm in New York City, so it's not as early for me, and I appreciate those on the West Coast. Uh, just to give you a little background on what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to give you an introduction, but really start to talk to you around how does Gen AI work, right? Specifically looking at that image generation use case, walk you through some demos, walk you through how to think about prompting, some time for Q&A, and then also some resources for you guys to take going forward. I hope most people got a chance to see our note about creating a Midjourney account. It would be really great if you can actually follow along with us. If you haven't yet, please go to midjourney.com and you can click sign up in the bottom right corner and follow that flow. First, a little bit, who are we? So I'm usually here with my partner, Divya Tak. Together, we founded a studio called Joyous. But who I am is I'm a writer, I'm a marketer. I started a company in India. I've also started Joyous now with my partner, and then previously started a boutique investment company called Grace Monos Capital. I'm really interested in a variety of things. I was hiking in Bhutan earlier this year. I'm hoping to hike Kilimanjaro next year. I really love curated dining experiences. And one of the things that really motivates me is thinking about how do we get better at what we do. And the reason I'm here today is because in my experience, I found that queer people have a ability to disconnect with others and really be cognizant of the challenges that people face and make them among the best people to be leading companies that I've met in this world. So a little bit about Divya, though she's not here with us. She's an artist, she's an inventor, she's a game designer, system designer, and she really cares a lot about culture and how do we build models that we can keep using to make our jobs easier. And that's what's really attracted us to each other. And she really gets a lot of satisfaction out of helping people figure out what they're good at and then be able to be very good at that. What do we do? We are a design company. So we think about how do you use emotion to get people to do what you want to do. And a lot of that in thinking is what you actually need to do as you start to think about Gen AI as well. Because Gen AI is based and trained on people, right? A lot of the training is based on things like Reddit, on content that people have created. So the way it responds to behavior is similar to how the way that we would think about people and how they respond to behavior. So what we do at Joyous is we think a lot about communication, about how do you create experiences, how do you express yourself in a way to communicate what you need, and then how do you get decision-making outcomes that you're looking for. So how do you get the behaviors that you're seeking from your customers and your partners? And then, as I mentioned, right, we're very values driven. We want to see certain businesses succeed, and we want to put our time and efforts in helping those kinds of people and those businesses succeed. So maybe before I share my goals, I'd love if folks can take a moment. If you want to just chat, type into the chat any goals you have. I'd love to kind of see why people have showed up today. Okay, these sound like some good goals. Thank you, guys. Hopefully, we accomplish some of them. How I'm thinking about it is, right, I want to give you a sense of prompting. Hopefully, that helps you achieve less creepy images, and yeah, being able to kind of create the outcomes that you're looking for, and then help you understand where's the things that we're really capable at, and where are the things that Midjourney and kind of image generation are not quite as good at. And then, yeah, we showing you just how do you actually use this web interface. Um, so these are some prompts I'm also just gonna show you guys. So let's say, I'll just steal that prompt that I actually wrote earlier. Uh, uh, and um, So what I've just done is I've given a prompt to Midjourney, and it's going and creating a set of 4 images for me in connection to that prompt, right? And so if you guys have not used Midjourney before, this is what how you do it, right? Like whatever you can imagine, whatever you're thinking about, you're going to be able to create something that fits into that. And you'll notice that there's some things that I added just because I've used Midjourney a lot. So, right. So I know that I want something that gives a certain feel. So it makes it feel kind of chill. And I wanted to have a certain vibe. So I gave it decade. Um, where'd my presentation go? It was on one of these screens. There we go. Uh, Right. And then I had a suspicion that maybe some folks would be interested in some stock imagery. So, right, I previously generated this as I was thinking about it, right? And here I gave a sense of what am I looking for? And again, a feel, right? Relaxing, calm. Now, today we're talking a little bit about Midjourney. Before I go too deep, I feel like it's really useful just to give a little scope of the landscape, right? Some folks have already mentioned in the chat that they've been using ChatGPT. They may have been using ChatGPT for images. What you're doing when you're using ChatGPT for images is you're using OpenAI software called Dall-E, right? And Dall-E's been around for a little while. I'm sorry. Yeah, excuse me. And Dall-E's been around for a little while. And Dall-E is very conversational, right? We've all talked, I think most of us have talked to ChatGPT at this point. It's very simple to be able to use it. There's also a limit, right? A lot of times where you find that there's an easy access, there's also a relatively low ceiling of what you can do with it. So you might be able to create some things with it, but your ability to kind of create and finesse the imagery is not going to be as high as some of the more sophisticated tools. On the other end, of course, is Stable Diffusion. And Stable Diffusion is probably the hardest to kind of learn how to use, but you can do the most with it, right? Stable Diffusion is underlying a lot of the people who are building applications based on generative AI, and especially generative AI with images or with video. So Stable Diffusion is a place where now there's a higher bar to entry, but there's a much higher ceiling, especially when you start to think about ChatGPT or the Dall-E capabilities within ChatGPT. And finally, there's Midjourney, which is where we are talking about today, which is kind of in between, right? There's a little bit of a learning curve. There's a very high bar of what you're able to do. You have a lot of the capabilities of editing images, of giving imagery as prompts, of giving different kinds of things as prompts, of varying images that you have with something like Stable Diffusion, and you aren't constrained by kind of the more limited capabilities of something like ChatGPT. Okay, so what are the kinds of things that we can do easily and fun with Midjourney, right? It's easily to make kind of different sorts of pretty images. And we'll pause here and show you guys a little bit more. So let me see if there's anything in the chat that I could use, or if anyone wants to type something that they want to see. I could do that. Okay, it seems like people are talking about product design and internet rendering. So let me see if I can do something in product design. So, I mean, product design is pretty broad, but let's say we want to, let's say we're a bookbinding business, right? And we're trying to think about different kinds of book bindings. So we'll say handmade book bindings, handmade book bindings. I'm really happy for other talks too, book bindings, um, uh, styles. Let's just start with handmade book bindings, then we can do some variations based on that. Okay. Um, and now as I'm watching this come in for me, let's say that I'm right. So some people have talked about, right, they've been trying to figure out images that can help them and let's say this image is kind of in the direction that we want to see, right? But now we know that this is not quite what we want. So we want to see some variations on it. And here we're starting to see the things that Midjourney is so great about, because we can be able to come in and take something and keep seeing more on it and start to be able to see what are the different types of ways that we can chase ideas we have in a quick way and see what would that render look like, right? Now, I trapped us a little bit by going down something as specific as this. I'm going to keep doing some more variations here and then click back over to my presentation. We'll come back and look at this in a few minutes when that finishes rendering. And I'm going to switch over and show you Nietzsche output as well, right? But this is what I was just talking about a few minutes ago, right? That's really great for being able to generate a lot of styles very quickly, where we can come in, we can say, oh, okay, we want to get some concept of We want to communicate a feeling. We want to be able to talk to a designer. We want to know that these things are useful to us. Um, and excuse me, that these things are communicating the type of feel that we want, right? And how do we do that is we can create a bunch of images. We can start to put together a mood board that can create that very simply. Now, there's starting thing, it's that yes, I'm just watching the chat in the meantime. Yeah, all of this that I'm currently doing is actually on midjourney.com, right? So I've just gone to midjourney.com. If you guys want to follow along, you're more than welcome. And just you come in here, click sign up, right? You can choose, if you don't have a Discord account, you can choose a Google account. And you literally would just be able to come in and be able to follow along. Unfortunately, Midjourney no longer has the free images, so you would need to sign up with a $10 a month subscribe plan. But that's just, you can come here, click, or even if you click right here, you can join now. Anyway, just to make it sure that we can follow along a little bit more easily. Now coming to a few of the limitations of, no, you're totally fine. A few of the limitations of Gen AI, right? Is when you're trying to get something that is predictability in writing, because of the way that the images are being created, it's trying to say, Gen AI is never actually understanding what is in the image, right? It's understanding what is the context around that image, and then what are similar things from it that it can been trained on to understand how can it give you something that is representative of the outcome you're looking for, right? But as you notice there's so many wiggle words in what I just said, right? There's so many things where it's trying to interpret or get a sense. So when you're looking for specific results, when you're looking for words that are written in order or written in a way that makes sense, it can become very hard to get the results you're looking for. You're much better to think about that as a two-part process, where you're first generating maybe, the scene with the whiteboard, and then later you're adding the words you want to see on it. So similarly, right, with numbers, you're going to see that same thing because it's getting a sense of what you mean. So when you ask it for something like 17 cats, it's like, oh, that's a lot. And you're going to see a lot of cats. Are they always 17? Not quite, right? Or when you're looking at like people, now if you spend a moment looking at these, right, you'll notice this girl in the yellow with the blue top, she doesn't have a right arm, right? And it's very unclear in this rightmost image what's happening to some of the hands, right? Even in the leftmost image, her arm seems to end in a stub, not quite a hand, right? So these are places where the consistency just starts to fall down a little bit. It's getting a sense of what you're wanting, right? So it's being able to build to generate something that feels like that. But the specificity around, oh, there should always be 5 fingers on a hand can sometimes get lost. I think I moved a little bit past this one, but this is another place that Midjourney, other Gen AIs are really going to struggle, is being able to place things actually relative to each other. Because again, that same thing, the mental kind of concept I'd love for you to take away is that communicating something that feels like something that captures the essence of it is something that you're going to be finding more success with than the exact outcome. Think about that as being something that you can add in post-processing when you just combine 2 images together or write on the image itself. Okay, I hope folks have managed to sign up as I've given that a little bit of spiel. Can we try and do some prompts? I'll also do it along with you, but if we want to come in here, and let's say, what did I say my prompts were? An old lady, a house on the beach, and happiness. And then I'm going to show you some fun things with this. So let me take that old lady again. So I'll come in here and say use, right? And now I can start and play with these a little bit. So the first thing, sure, give me an example, Mike, if you don't mind, of like, what is the kind of imagery you would be looking for related to your business? What is your business? Because remember with Midjourney, right, we're looking at imagery, right? So the purpose of this Gen AI tool is to generate images. So they're looking for use cases where you'd use images. So if you're, say, in a consumer business, you would maybe look for images of the product. If you're, like you're saying, in B2B SaaS, what's the business problem you're solving? So are you trying to make things more efficient for people in their communication and phone calls? So now you're trying to help show that you drive efficiency with that types of sales gen. Right? Or maybe this is a business where you're in a cloud sphere and you're trying to help people migrate more of their data workloads to a cloud service. Now you're trying to show, okay, security through my imagery, and maybe I don't know, again, that the data storage is going to be really easy. Yeah, we'll get into some of those. Okay, but let me come back to where I was a little bit. So what we're starting to see is the different ways that we can see different types of images. And what I want to show you is that you have these kind of controls here, right? So you may want to be, so if we wanted to start see, okay, what does something more stylized look like? We can come in and take this up to say 1,000. Um, and then at the same time, I'm gonna say, let me. So what I did right there is I said I wanted to copy that image URL, and then I pasted that image URL right here. And then I'm going to come in here and say I want to use this as an input for the person. David, this is specifically starting to answer your question. There's a couple of ways to do it. And then I might say that I want this person instead to be in a corporate office waiting for their mom. And what it's going to have done is it's going to take as an input that element of that photo. And then it's what it's calling a character reference. You can see when I hover over it, I still had stylize on, so we're going to see something kind of interesting results. And then it's going to try and apply that. This is because the stylize was so heavy. So let me just, oops. First stylize. And I'll also get us to see. What the fuck? Okay. There we go. And then the other way to kind of do, so let me, let's finish showing you guys what's happened here. Right, so in each one of these cases, it's taken this girl right here, and it's tried to apply it to what I've given as the prompt, which is in a corporate setting waiting for their mom. And the more stylized versions you see have these like, right, they're more, they're showing more of an element of an artistic characteristic, right? Whereas we start to see the ones that are a little bit less stylized, and these are more what you might think of as like stock imagery. They're still a bit weird, right? But they're not quite as artistic as those ones with their higher stylized fortune. The other way of doing it is you actually can come here and edit. Now, unfortunately, you can't do that on the basic plan, right? But that would be something that when you wanted to actually come and change an element of the image, you would come and be able to edit that image. Yeah. Okay. Let me come back to. Did anyone? Okay. So did our folks get a chance to do this? And what prompts did you guys do? I'm hoping, Mike, did you try out a prompt that was more suitable to your business? You want to share with us how that went? I'll give people like.
Yeah, so I'm still trying things out.
Okay.
I try to be as descriptive as possible. So I'm asking, right now I'm using ChatGPT. I haven't signed up to Midjourney yet. So I've did about 15 prompts saying, can you show me startup traction? Can you show me happy people high-fiving? Can you make them less creepy? Can you make them more human? Can you make them more joyful? Can you change the colors to make them more bright? Can you add stars? So my prompts like 15 different prompts. Because the original prompt, it was always a bit creepy, weird. They don't look human. They've got a weird eye, you know. So I ended up
So
image of just 3 arms high-fiving where you only see the arm and you don't even see their face.
I know
But
what
yeah,
you mean.
it's a lot of prompts back and forth to get there.
Let me go ahead a little bit. I'm gonna come back to the one I just started to having a prompt, because I think when I get into a little bit more of the advanced prompting, you'll see what I was getting at and what will help you. Okay, so I don't know how many of you are following along with me in Midjourney, but I'm gonna spend a little bit just to finish showing you guys that. So right, the stylization, I showed you a little bit how it changes. It makes it feel more artistic as we go along. There's a similar thing called weirdness, right? So it just starts to feel weirder, right? And it's what it's doing is it's looking to see what are the least likely potential nest things you could want, and it's giving a heightened boost to that factor in the constant. It has to do a little bit with how the GenAI system is working, but there's a seed where it's starting from, and then it's trying to guess what is the most likely thing that you're looking for. So how much of a step it makes away from the seed is part of how it starts to generate the different types of results that it shows you. So weirdness is one way to try to play with that. And then variety, right? So this is saying, what is it? Well, I could also just show you really quick. But I'm cognizant a little bit of the time. Well, so I'm gonna come back to that. I'm gonna come here too. I think this is really what will help Mike and maybe others who are trying to start thinking about this. So when we start to think about prompting, you often start with something like what I've given here, right? Which is like, okay, this is the thing I'm looking for. But then as you can start to add adjectives, it's almost like English class, right? You're going to be able to get more specific with the types of results that you see, and then that are going to actually help you get the results that you're looking for. So these may be a little bit obvious, right? But then as we start to add characteristics, those can start to make it feel more like the feeling we're looking for. So now here it's starting to look more like an oil painting, or here it's starting to look more like a distressed photo, right? Now we're starting to see someone in a city. So I can also go through and show you a little bit of these. I'm going to actually step through the rest of the slides, and I'm going to try and do Mike's use case, actually. So right now we're starting to give color schemes. Now we're starting to give more emotions. And then finally, we can start to get to stuff where we want to see certain kinds of lenses, because maybe we want to feel like this is actually imagery. We're not looking for kind of concept art feeling. We're looking for something that actually feels like something we could use in a pitch deck. So let me tab over there. Please go away, Siri. Right. So this is what I had said just before I went back to my slides. Now, let's say that you wanted to see in a more corporate environment. So let's say happy people, corporate sales. And let's say that maybe we want to see warm colors. Okay. And then also, I want, I don't know, West Coast vibes. Right. And then let's say that maybe this is the kind of vibe that we're going for, right? So now we say we want to see some variations, or maybe we want to use this image, but what we want to use from it is really the people, right? And so now I'm going to say, well, I want to see these people in a modern office setting, working at a whiteboard on a sales problem. And let's say we also need to have this just be brighter. So let's say well lit. Let me spell lit. There we go. All right. So that variation is generating right now. This is what you may have seen. Remember, I clicked a moment ago where I asked it to generate variations for me from that same image that then I used here as a character prompt. Again, right here. So here, maybe this is again feels like kind of maybe the vibes we want to go for. We could see some variations of that, or some variations of this. Mike, give me a feel. Are we going the direction that you were hoping?
It's getting better, yeah. But I promise, if you try to be realistic, it's never really that realistic. So I prefer if
Because you get
if it's a cartoon. Yeah, that's a funny one. If it's a cartoon, but not super cartoonish, like finding a cartoon which is realistic, but it's still a cartoon, right? Finding just the right balance in cartoony and real, it's a very delicate balance.
So that may be a great situation to use the other mode of Midjourney, right? Which is called the Niji mode. And so that's specifically trained on manga and anime. So it can give you this interesting kind of sets results. So we could still say, I don't know, sales workshop. And so now I've used that woman as a character reference. I've told it to use the Niji generation, but I've told it as my prompt is sales workshop. So let's see what we come back with. Let me see. Are there other folks who have some questions also? This is we have gotten to the Q&A part, and then I'll move forward with some resources in a minute. But I'm also happy to kind of go back to some specifics about like prompting and thinking about variations with Midjourney, which I know I went through a little bit quickly to get us to some more specifics about prompting.
Yeah, Karan, I have a few that have come through that I'm happy to tell you. So one of them is, can reference images be uploaded to Midjourney when prompting like an Adobe generative AI?
Yes. So both what I was doing just now, I could have done by saying copy image URL, and we could do this with any image URL and then just paste it in here. And now it's become as a reference. Now, these are giving you 3 different settings, right? So this is using as an image prompt, using as a style reference, or using as a character reference. So what I had been doing till now is I've been always using them as character references. So saying that this is the kind of person that we want to see, and then generate an image with that, right? But we could also have said, you know, maybe this is the type of style that we want to see, and said that what we really want to see is a mixed race group of teenagers hanging out at a sales event. Let's see how that goes. Right, and now what I've done is I've used this as a style reference, not as a character reference. And actually, just for fun's sake, I'll do the same thing with using it as a couple of different references. So that was a character. Now this is a character reference. And now, and you'll notice what I'm doing here is I'm clicking use, right? Which is just pre-filling this prompt completely up here, which is an easy way to do these multiple times. And now finally, I'll use it as an image reference, and we'll be able to see the 3 different versions. Yes, answer to that question as well. So I don't necessarily have any, I don't really know what's in my images I could show you guys, but here, right? So I can literally just drag an image from my computer and it's going to well, so I think that that's just a really big file. Yeah, so there's a file size limitation, I think. But yes, short answer, especially any sort of normal, not 50 megabyte image taken with my SLR, you would be able to upload that exactly as I was just demoing.
Awesome.
Yeah, so here you can see, so these were the style reference, right? This 3rd row here, the one that generated the oldest. And you can see it's kind of a similar style to how this woman was drawn. Here, it was the character reference, so we see it was all her, right? And here's an image reference. So you notice her hand is generally in that same like kind of up position. She's doing similar sort of like, it's that same side of her face, right? It's used the whole image as the actual reference in putting together the new set of images versus it just being the character or just being the style of the image as well. So something that could be interesting in a corporate environment is that you upload a couple of things that you found useful from a style, and then give those as style references so that then it's able to understand this is the type of corporate style that we have. Again, I would say, you know, really just feel free to rerun a bunch of times and then take, you know, the 2 out of the 20 you generate that work well for you, right? Like, don't feel that just because those are the first 4 results you got, that those are going to be the most useful results.
Awesome. That's super helpful. It follows up on another question that I think you've answered a little bit of, can you take an initial image and make it more realistic? You've kind of shown us that, but the follow-up is, if you find an image that you like, so this girl that you've shown, are you able to change one element in the photo specifically? So maybe you want her to look the other way, or you need to change the clothes.
So what I would do in that situation, would I take it as a character reference, right? So I would come and say image, and I would say character reference, and I would say, um, maybe we want, I don't know, her to be wearing red, red, yellow, orange, school setting, exams, right? So now what it would do, and then, or maybe, you wanted something much similar, right? So you said, you came in and just said, girl hanging out with her friends, formally dressed, blue, purple. We wouldn't necessarily need that, but just for these.
And as that's generating, I think you chatted a little bit about this with the uploads, but someone's asking, can you create a bespoke company style by feeding in a bunch of previous company artwork?
So this is a little bit of a complicated question. Yes and no. So with something like ChatGPT and words, it's more possible to do this, right? So for example, so I write, when I said I was a writer, right? Like my preferred modality is I write poetry. And something that I've done with ChatGPT is I've given it a bunch of my poetry, and then I've told it to use that when I ask it to write things later. I found that that's been just a very clear way for it to kind of understand more of a sense of my style, even more than like I've also tried dumping a bunch of like WhatsApp chats that I've sent and like emails that I've sent and been like, read this and then like write for me this other thing. I've gotten to a reasonable point with it, right? I still have to do a lot of editing, but it's gotten a sense of the style that I want things written in sometimes. Um, Now with Midjourney and trying to do that with imagery, it's a lot harder, right? And part of the reason why I'm showing you that you may need to do these multiple variations is because it's pretty hard to actually get the results that you're looking for right away. And because the training corpus is not as big, it's not like what you can do today with ChatGPT, that you can give it a whole bunch of memories and you can tell it to persist some ideas about you across chats. That's not possible in Midjourney today, right? The only inputs that you're giving are the inputs that you're giving right then and there when I'm typing into this, what will I imagine? So I can be giving some imagery as snapshots, and you've seen how I can use adjectives and I can use these kind of stylized things to be able to make things more in the direction that I want. But being able to develop an entire identity, I would more look to a designer who's good at iterating fast with Midjourney and asking them to, use Midjourney to give you like a bunch of different concept art, create mood boards, and just do that all on a much more accelerated time frame, but still lean into a designer who can then actually do that kind of like play that role of the expert who's judging the content that is being created by the tool.
Super helpful. Appreciate that. I think as you're going through this process as well, if you can speak a little bit to some of the best practices or things to consider if you're an LLC or if you have a business and you're submitting it for a proposal, or potentially, can you copyright these images if you're like, I found the perfect thing?
So that is something that I was reading a little bit about. I believe the US Patent Office gave copyright to a book, if I remember correctly, that had been partially written with ChatGPT. I'm not aware if there has been anything that's been given copyright that has been directly credited as having been generated by a GenAI imagery generation tool. The other thing, though, is that it's hard to like, again, right, if you're an artist or a designer, right, and you generate 100 images, then you use that as a basis for the thing you end up coming up with. Well, it's not necessarily that different than having scrolled through Google Images, right? And so then, did you use the Gen AI tool? Yes, but in your prototyping or maybe your researching process, and then are you going to need to credit it? Not necessarily. And then I think it's not that different even for you to take something and then edit it in Photoshop itself. Obviously I'm not a lawyer, right? My background is in computer science and a little bit of economics, but yeah. So my sense though is that if you're using it as a tool in your process, you're going to be pretty protected, even if there were some concerns about it. Whereas if you directly took the output and then tried to use that exactly as is, that might be a little bit more of a gray area. I pulled up here just for some folks, but these are 3 resources that can be really helpful. just for getting a sense of like what is possible, which I know is something that you guys were kind of asking me a little bit. The IMI prompt is really helpful for also just helping generate prompts for what you're looking for. And of course, they have these resources and composition list. I'll send this PDF to Daniel when I'm done, so then you guys can all have it as well. And then finally, Midjourney has a great getting started just in their quick start. Do we have any more questions? Otherwise, I can keep talking a little bit.
I think we're good for now.
Okay, so I got into some of this stuff, but image prompting, of course, we had a bunch of questions about. Very, very cool. The other thing you can do is you can say no, right? So we could say, right, or maybe, I don't know, no. Right. So especially if you start to feel like you keep seeing imagery in a certain direction and you really are wanting to go in a different direction, right? Like Mike was kind of hinting that sometimes you kept seeing imagery that was so radically not appropriate. The negative parameters can just be helpful for stuff like that. Another very cool thing for when you want to try out a bunch of stuff is being able to do this. So let's say teenager, older, what's the cowgirl? Older woman. And what it just did is it went and created 3, right? One for each one of those things that I had put inside of those brackets. So again, just really helpful for, or maybe if I did it this way, I could say green, yellow, red. And then I could even say boys, girls. Oh, okay, fine. I ran into too many batch jobs, but it ran some set of them. But what I was just showing you is it goes and creates all of those prompts for you. So if you know that you want to see a bunch of variations at once, again, just more is better with GenAI. Getting to a place where you can generate a few more items, see the results, and take the ones that make the best sense for you. That may change in the next years or even months to come, but at least that's where we are right now. And then finally, one kind of interesting thing to do is to ask ChatGPT to write prompts for you. So let's say, what did Mike say? So I love ChatGPT because you can make all the typos you want and it will still be right. And now let's say that even one of these was kind of useful. So we could take that and be like, this is kind of useful, but I need something that is more people focused, but not too realistic, because that feels creepy, right? And I personally find ChatGPT so annoying for creation because it's so slow, it only gives you one image. But using it to actually create uh, uh, stuff that you can use for Midjourney can actually be really helpful, especially when you're not as good at Midjourney yet. So, right, so this is the place that I really started out with. My partner, Divya, unfortunately, who's not here with us, she can just think about it because she's been a designer her whole life, right? So she can be like, oh yeah, of course, I need like this like oil painting style and reminiscent of this type of artist, and like it would be a 50mm view of a lens that I want to shoot here, right? But like those don't come as naturally to me. So having something that I can just chat with and be like, no, not like that, or the results I got from Midjourney, right? I can even just show you guys a little more, right? So let's say we'll go and put this in. One fun little thing I've learned, if you put it in quotes, it's going to show up in the image. So I'll just do it so you guys can see, but I'll also take it out. if you pay more money, you can get faster Midjourney creation, but $10 a month feels worth it to me, and I don't know about paying more than that. Any other questions while I'm waiting for this to load?
I mean, it's really interesting to use ChatGPT to give you the prompts for Midjourney. That's quite funny. That's a very creative use of it. So I'll definitely try that.
Yeah. So here you'll notice it should have put the words in. Maybe it didn't do it. Interesting. It's like put some words in. Yeah, I think they've pushed an update or something. So yeah, so you can kind of see, I think these are supposed to be, this is supposed to be the prompt, and it's just kind of illegible at the moment. And then similarly, it's over here. And here and here, but because I put the prompt in quotes, it actually put the words into the image. It's just not very readable. But anyway, so right, it's given us something, and then we could come back and be like, oh, maybe this was too stylized, or something, and then ask ChatGPT to revise the prompt with us. Let me see. I don't know, or Mike, give me a feedback. I can revise. I can keep doing my real-time demo. How do these feel to you? Which
I mean, they feel very cold and corporate. You want me show smiley faces, make it more joyful, more fun. The colors are too dark. So you just rewrite the whole prompt. You don't use the existing one and just say, can you change it to this? You have to rewrite the whole prompt each time in Midjourney.
So I would say, like, I would hit use here, right?
Yeah.
So then it would come up here, but yeah, then I would I would change the prompt up here. So
Got it.
yeah, if I wanted to do the
Follow up on an existing
variations,
prompt and just say, make it more fun or make it more colorful. You can't. You
so
have to rewrite.
you can do stuff like this, right? So let's say that something feels kind of close. So like maybe this feels kind of close, but you want to see variations. So you could ask for subtle and for strong variations, and then see what those come back with. So this is subtle variations based on that, where it's showing basically move the people around, but effectively the image is the same. And then this is going to show us slightly more dramatic variations. But yeah, variations are great when you feel like you've gotten to the image that you're almost looking for, and then you want to just see a little bit based on that. But if you feel like the colors and stuff are not quite right, you're better off changing the image, changing the actual thing to be like, the annoying thing is this is kind of like bright colors. Maybe we could say yellows, greens, and see if we can go away from these blues. I also could go and take this and be like, let me take this one. This is how I talk to ChatGPT. Right. Okay, let me look. So JP's asked a different question. What are you saying here? So you create component imagery based on previous images you have created. I think you're asking me if there's like a sense of memory, and the answer to that is no. Like the only way that you're going to give an input into this generation of these four images is by what you put into this bar, right? So you can, as I was saying, right, upload imagery into that bar either by pasting something from the internet. So I don't know, whatever. Yeah, you guys, I mean, I don't have to demo it again, right? So you could either upload your imagery of the giraffe and be able to use that as either a style or image reference, and then use it that way, or be able to, yeah, I think that's kind of what you're asking. Any other questions? Cool. So this was kind of our introductory workshop where we thought starting with imagery and image generation might be a cool place to start. It's interesting because it sounds like there's a lot more kind of questions around the lines of ChatGPT and thinking a little bit more about the generative AI from that side. I don't know if that's, maybe raise your hands if you feel that way, if you would like to see maybe a follow-up more focused on kind of word-based generative AI, so ChatGPT and those types of tools. Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I think we can maybe think about going more in that direction. But yeah, so thank you guys for the time today. As I kind of mentioned, we are a design studio. We do have a podcast, which we're very excited about, which is kind of about these topics, right? How do you just think on behavior and thinking about what it is to what you're asking for, and then also changing results to kind of get both the results you're looking for, both from people and from computers. And then, yeah, we will be back with part 2 and 3 of this workshop, and maybe steer it a little bit more towards chat generation as well.
Fantastic, Karan. Thank you so much for your time today. We're incredibly grateful for the expertise that you shared, and thank you, Diva, as well, for helping us with this session. I'm going to go hang out with my new best friend, ChatGPT, who I can talk to like my buddy and not like the overlord technology that they will be one day. But thank you all so much for joining us. If you like content like this, you're going to be getting an evaluation. Please make sure to fill out the evaluation so we can continue to bring new content like this for you all. Have a great rest of your day.